What's going on, everyone? Sorry I'm a little late. I was waiting for someone that I was going to have on with me tonight, but looks like they may be running a little late. Either that or they may still be recovering from a little bit of a stomach bug. So, um, if the stream runs a little bit too long for us solo, we'll just finish the stream out solo. So, there's a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. Um, Here we go. So I saw this video and I wanted to share it with you. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this video because there are some really interesting points that's made here. That hey, what is going on? Euro Zonzo. Oh, that's a pretty dope name, man. I like that name. How's your night going, man? So we're going to take a look at this video here because I want to set a little bit of a precedence for what we're really going to be expecting when it comes to the Epstein files. I guess, if we haven't made a conclusion for them already, I think it makes sense to kind of set a precedent. So let's see what this guy has to say.
They will never release the Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, how's my audio, guys? Is my audio fine? I just want to make sure that we're all good to go. I'm not too loud. I'm not too soft. Oh, I'm doing good, man. I'm not doing too bad. Just trying to get some more information out for you guys. Good. Right on, man. Right on. Okay, I'm going to back this up here.
They will never release the Jeffrey Epstein files. People keep hoping and demanding it, but I assure you they will destroy our own government before those files are ever released. Don't believe me? Listen to one of the most influential politicians herself.
I have said to people when they ask me if this Capitol crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid, and I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel.
Not our aid with them, but our cooperation. Just
Right.
the manner in which they protect Epstein himself. What does that imply?
Right. Yeah. So, that's very interesting, right? That's very interesting. Who was Epstein? Well, Epstein was an intelligence asset for Israel. Okay, that's why he was so protected. That's why there's so much dirt on the majority of our politicians, to include Trump. And this is what I wanted to show you here because they try to pull a fast one on us. And it really didn't work out. I'm going to blow this up here for you guys to see. So this really didn't work out like they thought it would because we caught it. Okay. So I remember when Trump said he didn't even know Epstein, right? Didn't even know Epstein. And then as more details came out, he kept slipping, right? Because there was a point in time earlier this year where he said there were girls that were stolen from Mar-a-Lago. Well, the question I had was, how in the world did he even have girls there at Mar-a-Lago to begin with, right? Pretty valid question. Well, you have all kinds of other victims who are stepping forward, and they're finally getting their say in. Well, I guess without getting whacked, right? Unfortunately for Virginia, it's so unfortunate that victims are silenced and they can't talk. But now there's all kinds of stuff that they're trying to protect our very own president from, right? Being exposed, really. So you see all of these pictures here, and the very files that, as people were coming to find out, the very files that they were searching specifically for Trump was, they found his name in there, and quite heavily redacted, of course. But they found his name in there over 600 times, I believe, in this new drop. That's why they were like, "Oh well, let's go ahead and take this back. Let's reorganize. Let's re-edit everything, so that we can keep redacting it and not pull the oopsie that they did." And we'll get to that here in a second. But as you can see here, he's seen with Epstein quite a few times. And Ghislaine. Okay. And these are all photos. There was one where Trump was with, a few bikini girls, right? And I don't know how old that they were, but they took that was one of the photos that they took out, and there are a few more there. And so I wanted to pull up this other. Oh, that's right. That's right. I gotta go into my. I gotta go. Oh wait, never mind. Oh, here it is. Okay, I've got so many different tabs going on right now. I think this one is it. Yes. Okay. All right. So you want to know why they're redacting? It's because of this right here. This is exactly why they're redacting it, right? You can see here between September 2015, and I've talked about this in my earlier video too, but I wanted to retouch on this because there's a lot to be said here. So starting back between September 2015 and June 2019, Indike signed foundation account checks for over $400,000 made payable to young female models and actresses, including a former Russian model who made over $380,000 through monthly payments of $8,333 made over a period of 3.5 years. So what's being said here, obviously the red line being completely taken out, and then all of this redacted. Okay, and it goes. There's even more. Of course, there's more. In November 2017, Indike signed a foundation check made payable to the immigration lawyer in New York who was involved in one or more forced marriages arranged among Epstein's victims to secure a victim's immigration status. So they were actively committing fraud, marriage fraud, right, with the immigration department, I guess. And this was going to be completely taken out. So why in the world do we have people who are protecting this kind of crime, right? And we were told that this was going to be the most transparent, administration ever, right? But isn't it weird? Isn't it weird how at the beginning of the so I remember watching a an interview with, oh, what's his name? He's the comedian guy that does a lot of podcasts. I forget his name. But I remember he's obviously he's super well known, super in the mainstream now, but I remember he did an interview with with JD Vance, right? And this was earlier 2024. And so he was asking, "Hey, are we let's release the Epstein files, right? Let's release that." And of course, they were campaigning on the Epstein files, right? Because they wanted your vote. And so jokingly, JD Vance was like, "Yeah, we'll release the Epstein files." Let me see if I can find actually it might be it might be in here. If I could spell it correctly. Was this it? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Right here.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Right? Did you guys catch that? I'm gonna play it again for you.
Release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Right? Okay, so look at his body language. You see how he responds to that, right? How he responds to that statement. And then after that, he comes back and just says, "Yes, release the Epstein list," so smugly, right? So looking back, we already know that they're not going to release the actual information. Why? Because people would riot. People would absolutely they would get so violent. You know, I almost every single video of Ian Carroll's that I watch, right? I love Ian Carroll. Dude does an amazing job. Does an amazing job. And by the way, before you know we get there, JD Vance. If you guys don't know, JD Vance has connections to Epstein. Okay. Matter of fact, since we're talking about Ian Carroll has made this known, right? Because Ian Carroll has JD Vance has connections to Peter Thiel. Okay. Peter Thiel founded Palantir. That is a data analyst company that is used for counterterrorism measures by Israel. And so what we came to find out through Ian Carroll's shows is that Peter Thiel was also in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. So they all either directly or indirectly were connected to each other and they knew each other. But then again, it's not really surprising that both Trump and JD Vance take AIPAC money, right? And so they're doing the will of Israel, of course. So it would make sense that these Epstein files, or at least the true evidence, isn't going to come out. Right. Because if it did, this is where we're getting back on, a little snippet from Ian Carroll's show. If you look into either his intros or his outros, I believe they're the same thing. There's this little clip that says even if 1% of the information is true about all of this shit, it would be enough to change the entire planet. Okay. And that's because people would absolutely riot. I don't blame them. I don't condone violence, but I absolutely understand it. Right? Because we're all being lied to. All of us, right? And we're catching these people in lies. Look at all of this. I mean, I was just looking at some of these files today, right? Or I guess the files that they didn't take back after the oopsies. Okay. But look at all of these redactions. Are you going to tell me that all of these are victims? You're going to tell me that all of these are victims. There's no fucking way that all of these are victims. Items not scanned. Why weren't they scanned? There's all kinds of redactions here that doesn't make any sense. Pages. Oh yeah, that's right. The new data set that they released, data set 8. Over 500 pages completely redacted. Why? Let's see. Here we go. I want to share this with you too.
So that flopped. The Epstein files, they said they were going to come out. They're not coming out, or they're coming out, but they're heavily redacted. 500 pages in the Epstein files were entirely blacked out. It's very obvious to everyone that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence agent that was working on behalf of Israel.
That's right. And he's gotten pictures, videos of all kinds of people. I mean, you've got people like Bill Gates, and then people like this guy. What is this? Steven Pinker. Okay. You got professors at Harvard. All right. If you guys haven't seen this little clip here, right? Those are presumably young girls asking, where are you taking us, right? So you have people like this. Why are they being protected? Why are they being redacted? Right? Why are all of these names being redacted? Because there's no fucking way that these pages upon pages, 500 pages that are redacted, are all victims. Right? Which by law, they're only supposed to redact the names of the victims, not the names of the the co-conspirators, right? And then if I'm pretty sure all of us remembers Kash Patel, right? Kash Patel, how he said earlier the year that there was no credible evidence that Kash Patel had, or that Epstein had trafficked, to anyone else, right? And let me see if I can find this here. Let's see. Okay, I think this might be it. I think this might be it. So maybe I don't know if I don't know if this happened maybe yesterday or a couple of days ago, because it would really make sense that a lot of things that happen behind the scenes usually happen when people are, having their attention taken away from the shit that actually matters. Like a good example is the fact that we just sent over $960 million to Israel. I believe Christmas Eve, right? That's something I didn't know about. And so I want to know why. We already send them $3.8 billion a year on top of the $500 million for their nuclear programs, right? Why? Anyways, I'm ranting here. So let's go ahead and see what's being said. Oh, that's right. Recently, Kash Patel was brought again before Congress, being questioned, rightfully so, because he lied under oath about the not being any credible evidence. But then it came out that there are at least 10 other co-conspirators. And so, Congress wants to find out why, and so do we. So I want you guys to watch, and I might have to pull up another video here because they're absolutely, Cash gets into a heated debate here. So I'm going to shut up.
There's no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
Oh, okay. I think that was...
I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when
Oh,
Senator
okay. I
Kennedy
think this
asked
is it.
you,
I think this is it.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to?
That's right,
besides
yeah.
himself? You replied, according to the transcript.
So before we continue this video here, kind of just a quick breakdown. So Representative Massey, then asks him questions about, look, you said this thing, right? You said there's no credible evidence. Now it's coming out that there are at least 10 other co-conspirators. So what's the deal, right? And then he gets into a pretty heated verbal altercation with another representative. So
There is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to the Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to the Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors such as Virginia Roberts Ufree, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, At least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada.
Sorry
We
about
know
that,
these
guys.
people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information. And we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of two different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents that where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said all.
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present?
Right. So not credible, right? Not credible. Nothing is credible. Really. Really. Well, neither are you, Cash. Trying to convince us that a fucking a fucking 30-06 round can be stopped by a steel neck. Yeah, whatever, bro. Okay. So I shared this in my video Tuesday, and I thought that I had it pulled up here, but I'm gonna have to. Here, let me. There we go. Is this it? Ah, here we go. Okay. So, as we can see here, this says a lot about Trump. This says a lot about Trump. Okay. This is what makes me sick. That someone who experienced this trauma went to the police. They knew if they went to the police that we all know who they is. They would, quote unquote, they will kill me, right? And then later in Oklahoma, they were found, or she was found with her head blown off. Then they try to and they try to allude that to a self-unaliving. Right? But here is the very interesting information. Because here, the limousine driver, which I don't understand why that name's redacted, right? Eyewitness. Now, I guess if he wanted his name anonymous, then sure. So I'll leave that one there, and obviously the victims. But however, why all of these redactions? Why all of these redactions? Okay, I don't really believe that all of these redactions are names of the victim. I really don't. I really don't. And now it's also coming out that Trump received a handy from a 13-year-old. I want to say that was Virginia who had said that. I don't know. I don't know how I can find that information exactly, but I do. I want to say that was Virginia. That was Virginia Giuffre. But let's see here. Already did that. Oh, um, so I believe this was one of the pictures that they also deleted as well. Um, yes. Uh, mm-hmm. Exactly. Why? Why? We know why. We know why. We know where all of this is connected. Okay? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that these people were all connected. These people were all in positions of power, and they all abused their power. Right? So once you figure out that Epstein was Mossad, then you begin to understand that, okay, who actually runs the country? Because then you begin to realize that the majority of Congress does whatever they say. Right? Openly commit treason, by the way, and state on multiple occasions that they stand with a foreign country other than us Americans, right? 360, around 360 Congress members of the 435 actively take foreign interest lobbying donations. That's a massive problem. Oh, I should probably get rid of that. That was for a project that I'm working on. But 360 guys. And I'll show you. I'll show you. Let's go to, if you guys don't keep up with APAC Tracker, I would highly suggest you guys get into APAC Tracker. Okay. Because I want to show you who they're actively supporting. Okay. So let's look up Tony Gonzalez. Okay. Running against Brandon Herrera in Texas. Shout out to my boy Brandon Herrera, doing some good work over there, man. Let's see. Greg Kassar. Congratulations, Greg. You passed my shit list. Oh, of course, we got Ted Cruz here, 1.8 million. Where is Tony? Where is Tony? Tel Aviv, Tony. Okay, I don't see Tony. Oh, there we go. Wow, a whopping $2 million. And by the way, the last cycle that he was running, he didn't put a single dime. And I believe I have the screenshot here. I have the screenshot. I'll probably have to look a while back. But I absolutely got the receipts for that. I got the receipts for that, bro. So the last cycle, he didn't put a single dime into his own campaign. Why? Because he got millions of dollars in donation. Right? So that would beg the question, where is he getting all the money from? And, well, here we go, right here. That's where he's getting the money from. So, might have to, that's quite a ways back. I wish I had someone that would do that would take a look at all the screenshots and stuff I got and send it to me while I'm streaming. That'd be nice. Anyways, I might be able to, no, I'll probably have to pull that out at a different time and send it to a post or something. But I'm almost lost for words. You know, I'm almost lost for words. But this is who these people are, and this is also some information that I want to get out to you guys too. Um, if you guys don't know what ACN is or what multi-level marketing companies are, okay, multi-level marketing. These are companies that run pyramid schemes. Okay, if you don't know what pyramid schemes are, it's basically a company that creates a marketing company that brings in people, and they, by investing into themselves, they funnel the money all the way up to the top, right? The way it's designed is that the top make the money, and then the people at the bottom, or people below the top and all the way up to the bottom, either make no money at all or they lose money, in which 9 times out of 10 they lose money. I've had several people, good people on the channel, tell their stories about their MLM experience. The only reason I found out about MLMs is because I was a victim myself of an MLM called Amway. And Amway is one of the oldest MLMs, which is, well, actually now the oldest, because they've bought out Nutrilite, which is considered one of the oldest ones, or at the oldest one. That's actually where everything came from. But Trump, okay, and this is something that's not talked about. This is why I talk about it almost every single time I talk about Trump, because I want this information out. And if any of you follow Ian Carroll, please send him this information, okay? Because we're about to get a little deep here, all right? Because I want to explain to you people, I want to explain to you guys who these people are, right? Because for a long time, you know, MAGA propped this guy up to be a fucking hero of some sort. But the more digging you do into who these people actually are, you begin to realize that, okay, well, no. So, from 2005, let me see here. Oh, maybe. So from 2005 to 2015, the very year that he announced his run for presidency, he had people, or he was a spokesperson for a multi-level marketing company called ACN, right? America Communications Network. Okay. And he was a paid spokesperson. All right. And so he even had these guys on The Apprentice. All right. So there was a federal lawsuit that was brought before him and ACN for scamming people, right? And of course, that was thrown out by Lorna Schofield, and I'm trying to find her name. Oh, here we go. Schofield, right here, who was appointed by Obama, right? And we all know that who are involved in that. And so, you had Schofield that are throwing these cases out. Okay. Now, that was thrown out in January of 2024. All right. January of 2024. Now, that federal lawsuit was picked back up. However, there's still a lawsuit that are filed against the Trump family and Donald Trump, of course, himself, right? So this is who these people are. All right. So when you come to find things out like this here, you begin to understand that, well, maybe, just maybe, this isn't so far-fetched at all. And they absolutely get away with this. This is the most infuriating thing, right? Because I remember watching a Moist Critical's video over this whole thing. And it makes so much sense because this is always what happens. Okay? This is always what happens. Is that the rich and powerful can do whatever they want. And they can get away with it. They can get away with it with little to no accountability at all. And typically, the ones who are held accountable are the ones that are the scapegoats, right? That's why Jeffrey Epstein went to prison and Ghislaine Maxwell, because they were the scapegoats, right? They wanted us to stop talking about it, which is exactly why Trump was trying to, or why Trump was attacking people and gaslighting them, trying to stop talking about the Epstein files, calling it a Democrat hoax. Which, hate to tell you, Trump, not a Democrat hoax. Obviously, both Republicans and Democrats are involved, right? Because we saw Clinton's face in there, of course, with all the pictures there. But that's the sad thing about it, is that this government is so corrupt that they won't face any accountability. And I honestly believe, even if they did release all of this information, that there still wouldn't be anything happening anyways. You know, and I think all of these things that are happening, oh no, I was wrong on the 960 million sent to. No, I'm sorry. That was with the whole drama between Candace and Erica Kirk. What I think happens is any kind of movement that happens is either corroborated in a way to distract people from the actual things that are going on, or they're eventually hijacked, right? Because I look at how 2015 went, right? And there was just this kind of reawakening of America, I guess you could say, right? And people got tired of the bullshit, right? They wanted something different. They wanted to not be looked at as a cash cow, as a villain for believing what they believed in. And that's what, MAGA stood for, right? At the time. And so, Trump was the face for that. And, the more people began to wake up, the more attacked they were. Because if you try to exercise, right, your unalienable rights, they will absolutely come after you for that. Right? And I think what's going to happen with these Epstein files that people were able to copy and paste, which is what I showed you earlier, they're going to start hacking people's phones. Actually, matter of fact, I wanted to bring this up on stream too. So I had downloaded one of those images, right, of the files that you could copy and paste. I'm sorry, one of the images, it was a screenshot of one of the pages. Right. Unfortunately, we don't have that because they took it back and they're doing some work to it, right? Re-redacting it, essentially. And then probably gonna release it as just an entire redacted page. Anyways, so I lost my train of thought for a second. Sorry, I'm kind of fried right now. Yeah. So I downloaded, that image, and what which is something so interesting, I had an update on my phone. Isn't that interesting? Right? That all of us had an update for our service provider after these files. I think that's pretty interesting. Right. I think it's also pretty interesting how these files dropped right before Christmas. Right. Ask yourself, why is it that the president, right, is coming out giving not one but two speeches on how great of a job he's doing right before these files are coming out? Right. Why is it that he's love bombing us? He's gaslighting us. Obviously, because he's involved. I mean, he's mentioned over 600 times, right, with this new data set that was released. And then they're deleting pictures, right, of him being there. Okay. So, and then we also have people who are running cover, and this is also something that I wanted to show you guys too. Let's see. There was an interview that I saw, and I forget the name of this guy. But there was this interview that was done. Hopefully I can find this.
Israel, bring home. We stand by our number one.
No. Oh, man, I was trying to find that interview. I can't. Anyways, there was there was an interview where a guy was asking, why is it that Dan Bongino quit, right? But Kash Patel stayed. And, he says, well, that's because Kash Patel is already bought. Right. So it makes me beg the question, what do they have on Kash? Right? Because as we're coming to find out, we already know what they have on Trump. Right. Who else who else is there? And, well, I mean, like I had mentioned, 360 members of the 435 members of Congress. Right. It's on AIPAC's website. You can go and look this stuff up. It's on AIPAC's website. But I don't think that oh, here we go, right here. Right here. We were just talking about it. Right here. That is the majority of Congress. Majority of Congress. So, but I don't think they will ever be held accountable. It's sad. It's sad to say that. It really is.
So will you?
And I'm trying to find. I wish I had these clips on hand. Should probably make them on hand now. Yeah, I should probably start putting them on hand. I don't know why I can't find the clip of that interview. I wish I had that clip on me, but I don't, unfortunately. So sorry about that, guys. But I mean, I don't think there's really that much more to say. I mean, no matter how many pages are going to come out, we already know that they're going to be redacted. And it doesn't matter what information we uncover, it's not really going to make a difference. Now, obviously, the information that comes out that may either implicate certain people or not, I think will obviously be used for political benefit, right? Because if there's more stuff that comes out about Trump, which there more than likely is going to be, then that will absolutely be grounds for, or that'll absolutely be used for political benefit, right? Because we all know that the Democrats have wanted Trump out of office since day one, right? But even then, I think that that's still a psyop as well, right? And it's a part of the political social construction for us, right, to fall into, right? Because if they can keep us in a left versus right instead of focusing on what the actual problems are, right, being up and down, then we're going to continue to be robbed blind, right? And while we are distracted by everything which way, then we're going to continue to be lambs, sheep. But you also come to a point of understanding I should say, where it gets so exhausting. And I think that's also a point too. The more you come to find out, the more exhausted you get. I saw a post not too long ago where someone said that they wish so much to go back to the time where they didn't know all the things that they know now, and I can absolutely relate to that. Makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, the more you come to find out, especially when it comes to the Epstein list and how impacted this whole trafficking thing, and which I do think that I do think that there is a connection between Roblox and Epstein, because there has to be. Obviously, there's similarities there. But that's yet to be seen, and that's just my thoughts on that. But anyways, I think the more, well, I know actually, the more you come to find out, you come to a point to where you understand that there's no turning back, right? Because once you understand that there's no possible way, I believe, there's no possible way that this country can be put back on track otherwise voting. I'm sorry, voting wise. Okay. We're not voting our way out of the mess that we're in, because the system was designed for us. Foreign influence wise or other, right? But I would definitely say foreign influence has definitely helped create the system that we're in, right? Because we're sending almost $4 billion a year, right? And then also to Ukraine as well. And premiums are continuing to spike up. Some 200%, I believe. People are choosing either paying their rent or mortgage, than their health insurance, right? The more you come to find out, the more exhausted you get, right? But you understand that there's no turning back at this point, right? And the only way that we get out of this, right, is not through voting. Because the system is going to lead to self-destruction anyways, right? This is designed for us. Because this is social class. It's social class warfare. It's not left or right. It's never been about left or right. but they make us believe it's left or right, right? So it's not that we lost this country in the early 2000s, right? It's that when you begin to do your research, you begin to understand, okay, well, in 1862, right, the first instance of a income tax started with notes, right? And then the first dollar in 1863, right? And then you also find out that in 1891, the Supreme Court had ruled a federal income tax unconstitutional through Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust Farmers Loan and Trust Company. And then in 1913, you also find out that the Federal Reserve was created or founded, excuse me, by a small few group of men, right? And the people, the wealthy men, obviously, and then those who were wealthy who opposed it, all of a sudden mysteriously died in the Titanic. Interesting. But that same year in 1913, the government gave itself the right to tax all of us, to tax you, right, through the 16th Amendment, which was very clearly supposed to be which is very clearly unconstitutional, right? It wasn't supposed to happen. But then you also find out in 1917 through the Selective Service Act that they it gets evil, man. It really does. You find out that the age of majority is no longer 21 because the age of majority, right, the age of consent is what it used to be called, or the age of majority is what it used to be called. Now it's called the age of consent. But the age of majority used to be 21, right? And the only reason I found that out was because I was watching Nick from Fat Electrician talk about, one of his, war hero, obviously. But the age of majority used to be 21. And then in 1917, they wrote the Selective Service Act, signed it into law, and now the age of majority is 18. Okay. And we also know that the very year following the founding of the Federal Reserve, and then the ratification of the 16th Amendment, came World War I, right? Well, in between World War I and World War II, in 1933, FDR had signed Executive Order 6102, which confiscated everyone's gold, forcing them on the dollar. Right. And then we also have President Jefferson, who warned us about a paper currency being a ghost currency, right? Well, after 1933, World War II comes, and then the baby booming era, right? Well, again, where it comes back to social class is in 1971, we got off the gold standard, right? Whereas back in the day, you could have gold to back your currency up. And oftentimes people had that. But now that's no longer an option. And so after 1971, what do we have? We have more war, right? We have more war. The Cuban Missile Crisis, right? Because our government wanted to go in and invade Cuba. They wanted to, right? With Operation Northwoods. But who stopped that? Right? Well, I said 71. This happened in the 60s, my bad. This happened in the 60s. After 71, right, with the ending of the Vietnam War, that was in, 72, 73, I think. But later on, we had what? We had Desert Shield, Desert Storm, or excuse me, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, right? And then the global war on terror. After 1913, what I'm saying is that our country became a country that solely runs its economical survival on the war machine, right? So what I wanted to go into was Operation Northwoods, because I believe President Kennedy was the best president that we have ever had. I say that because in 62, I think, 1962, there was an operation that wanted to be done by known as Operation Northwoods, that was planned for the government to attack American citizens, right, by shooting down airliners, right, with real people in them or not, attack military bases, etc. And then to use that as a false flag to get involved, right, or sorry, to go and invade Cuba. Okay. And that was immediately struck down by Kennedy. Well, Kennedy was also saying some things, and unfortunately paid the ultimate price by getting too close to the sun. Because I believe we were already captured at that point. And so he was also talking about scattering, the CIA into the wind, right, into 1,000 pieces. But he was also talking about auditing Israel, right? And supposedly, and the following year, happened to him. Unfortunately, what happened to him, right? That's the problem. You start talking about the real issues, you start having a target on your back, right? It's very unfortunate. But our government is so captured by, I mean, it's not just foreign interests, but it definitely it it definitely points to most of them, right? Ted Cruz being captured by foreign interests. I mean, I really don't, and if you try to make privacy, or if you try to exercise your Fourth Amendment right, your right to privacy, then you get locked up for 5 years. I did a live stream over this not too long ago where a privacy tech creator by the name of Kiani Rodriguez and his co-founder of Samurai Wallet, William Hill, had created an app, right, to help with privacy. And the government broke its own laws. It broke its own laws by throwing out evidence that would exonerate them, right? To throw these guys in prison. And now they're in prison, serving time for a crime they didn't commit. Right? We see this all the time. We live under tyranny. Okay? There's a really famous saying I always love to use because it's very true. You may not care about politics, but politics cares about you. And if we choose to keep burying our head in the sand, right, we're eventually going to find ourselves in a situation where we have no idea what's going on, and they are throwing us into a fucking coal mine, right? This is what really frustrates me about Americans, and in particular. But I also think that is for a reason as well, right? Conditioned, because the Rockefellers talk about it. Rockefellers, who was also involved with the Epstein shit. Rockefellers, the Rockefellers, they want people to just work, not think, right? That's one of the famous quotes from Rockefeller, right? He wants a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. Well, what do? You blind the masses. When you blind the masses, right, you can get them to believe anything and everything you want them to. And, well, when you do that, you can get them to do anything. Why do you think all these cities are burning down, man? You know, why do you think people fall so hard for MAGA, right? For America First, for any other any other movement with a label of patriotism, right? Because they know that the majority of people don't look deeper into things, right? And I have issues with this myself, right? I think we all do. But we really have to catch ourselves whenever we come across these situations and really do some thinking, right? That's why I always say, if something happens, right, always ask yourself, what's going on in the back end? Right? What's happening behind closed doors that they don't want me knowing about? That they kind of hush hush. That's why I always bring up the involvement between Trump and multi-level marketing companies, which, mind you, Amway has donated $10.5 million in lobbying, right? That's why the FTC considers Amway a legitimate business. But if you've been with the channel for a while, you would already know that's absolute horseshit. But for those of you who are new and just tuning in, first of all, thanks. And then two, they're not. Amway is not a legitimate business. They make people fill out information to reach a certain threshold of outside sales, 70%, to qualify themselves as a legitimate business when the majority, if not all, of its sales that it's making, right, is from within. They're their own independent business owners, right, IBOs. And they just scam people through the tools, right, like these audios they give to people, inspiring them to do better, to be better, to build the business, right? When you find out just how connected all of these people are to one another, it gets you really frustrated. It really does. Because Amway, right, is owned by two families, the DeVos family, or excuse me, the DeVos family, and the Verburen family. I forget I forget the no, Van Andel, sorry, the Van Andel family and the DeVos family. Okay, so what I want to share with you guys is Trump's Secretary of Education in his first term. Let's see, first term. Let's see. Okay. All right. So Betsy DeVos. Okay. Betsy DeVos. She is obviously married into the DeVos family, who also owns, Amway. Okay. Oh, former. Oh, I thought she was still married. Interesting. Okay, so she was married to Dick DeVos. Okay. I thought she was still married. Oh. Well, that's news to me. Anyways, Betsy DeVos, okay, married into the DeVos family, who owns Amway. Okay. Now let's see. Amway. Just so I'm pulling up the receipts here. See, 10.5. Let's see. Where? No, it's not. It's not. It was I was trying to find open secrets. Yeah, let's see. So you can see here all the contributions that they have made. So since 1998, they have donated $10.5 million. You can see the track right here. Obviously, goes all the way back. Okay. I was trying to find the exact article. But yeah, they have donated $10.5 million to the Republican Party. Okay. Or maybe I'm sorry. No. I think it was specifically the Republican Party. They lobby to both, right? And but you the people who aren't in the club, you're restricted to $2,500, if I remember correctly, right? Whereas big PACs, they can donate multiple millions of dollars, and of course you're going to serve those interests because they paid you your campaign, right? And they're going to line your pockets. So then, obviously Americans aren't going to be taken care of, right? That's why our teachers are literally starving to death. They have to choose. They have to choose to either eat themselves, right? Or excuse me, eat for themselves. I want to make it look like we're talking about cannibals here. Eat for themselves, right? Or provide for their children, right? While we have big business execs, right, literally trafficking young girls, young boys, right? But they want to go after Keanu Rodriguez, right, for building an app to where they can't track your transactions, right? Your financial transactions, buying and selling stuff, right? Right. Right. So I think what's going to happen if AI doesn't completely destroy everything, they're going to slowly but surely erode our constitutional rights. They're already trampling on them right now, except for the 16th Amendment, mind you. Right. But they're slowly, and this has been happening over the course of several decades, maybe an entire century, I believe. Right. Because back in the 80s or 90s, I think they were banning fully automatic machine guns, right? And now you can't even criticize Israel because federal agents are now visiting people's houses for criticizing Israel. Isn't that interesting? So the more of a grip that a certain country has over our politics, right? They're already a gangster organization. Mind you, the United States government was working with the mob back in World War II to help protect our ports. If you guys didn't know that, they absolutely did. That's something else that I found out about Ian Carroll too, is that during the war, both the Jewish mobs and the Italian mobs, right, had control over the ports, and they were protecting the ports for the government. Also, what he points out, I'm going to have to do some more research on this myself, is that Israel was founded by terrorist organizations, which is true actually, which is true. But that happened a little after World War II. Anyways, you start becoming critical, right, of Israel, and then your very rights get attacked. You get attacked. You're called a conspiracy theorist, right? You're called an anti-Semite. You're called all of these names, which mean literally nothing today. All because you see one, maybe two, three, you see a few things that just doesn't exactly seem right with you, right? You begin to find out about the USS Liberty. You begin to find out about 9/11, the dancing Israelis. You begin to find out about a lot of things, right? The Sergeant's affair. You begin to find out about a lot of things, right? The Ergun. And the was it the Lehigh? I think it was Lehigh as well. Right, you begin to find out about a lot of these things, but as soon as you ask questions, you are attacked, called crazy, or mocked, deplatformed, right? And I think it's leading us to a very dangerous road. A very dangerous road. And it's one that we can't ignore anymore. It's not. It's not, because more and more people are waking up to what the actual issues are. I think there's no going back. I think by what happened with Charlie has kind of jarred America awake. Because before Charlie, it was more of a red versus blue kind of situation, left versus right. I think that was actually changing, but after Charlie, after what we believe who actually did it, right? I think people are really starting to wake up in more of a massive number now. People are really starting to become more aware of what's actually going on. Right? The thing is, we just have to keep noticing. And the only thing I could really think of that would really help fix these issues is do exactly what Brenda Herrera is doing, right? Where we're going and we're taking office. We're running against these people. I think it starts locally, right? Start running for office, maybe mayor, and then move up to your state, right? And then move up to the federal level. But as history always has shown us, this only ends one way, unfortunately. And that's with violence. None of us want that. I don't want that. But unfortunately, this is the cycle of humanity. We always bring ourselves to conflict. Right? I always explain it like this. We start off as small tribes. We come together. We build a nation. Right? Eventually, we come to destroy that nation, and we separate again, starting the cycle over. And so, history also says that empires only last about 500 years. Well, what happens, right? Because Rome lasted 500 years. That's where we base that off of. But the difference between us and Rome is that we have this, right? We have this. We have technology that is able to connect us, you and me, from across the world in a matter of seconds, right? And so to information. And so that's why I think this country is speed running its own downfall because of this technology, right? I'm constantly mocked and told I'm crazy for saying this country only has 5 years left. Well, I think I would probably add to that just a little bit, because the more that I'm finding out, as I've already talked about 1913, 1933, 1990, 1971, this country has already been lost. I'm sorry to tell you guys. It's the this country, right? Of what we understand America to be, right? A great nation, right? That our founding fathers had intended for us to have, to enjoy. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Okay. The very fact that Keani Rodriguez and William Hill was sent to jail for protecting privacy already says that, right? And the fact that the government can get away with breaking its own laws, and I mean, you can even look at Utah, right? When all of the nuclear testing was going, was being conducted in Utah. I want to say, when was that book written? If you guys haven't read the Clan of One-Breasted Women, I would absolutely recommend you guys read that, because it's written by Terry Tempest Williams, and she talks about the effects of cancer, and the fact that the U.S. was conducting nuclear testing in Utah in the 1950s. Yeah, okay, right. I figured it was after the war. But here, let me see if I can show you guys here. So, the clan of the clan of One-Breasted Women takes place in the 1950s, where the U.S. was conducting nuclear tests. Oh, is in Nevada. My bad, guys. I thought it was in Utah. And the effects of that carried over into a town that was causing cancer, right? Breast cancer specifically. And there were numerous lawsuits that was filed against the government. And the government would do its own investigations, and they would find themselves innocent. Right? That was in the 1950s. Okay. Guys, we never had a shot. We never had a shot. Never had a shot. Right? And then you read about Ruby Ridge, right? How a guy was literally convinced by what was it, a CIA or FBI agent or ATF agent? A fucking 3-letter agent? Right? Coerced to commit a crime? And then they went after him? Killing his wife, his son, and his dog, I believe? Interesting. Right? So, these things have been happening for a long time. Long time. And if I didn't say it earlier, since 1913, the dollar has lost 97% of its value. Guys, our paper currency literally means nothing. So the only people that actually have any kind of currency, tangible currency that makes sense, are the wealthy. Because they have gold, they have precious metals. Gold, silver, right? While we have nothing. And they want us to work, right? Because today, Americans has been more productive than ever before. And yet, young Americans are staying at home with their parents more than what was more than what they did in the early 1900s. Guys, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. While a certain country has free health care for their citizens, has free college for their citizens, our own people come out of college debt, same value as mortgages. I've even seen some $300,000-$400,000 in college debt. Right. But this is also the game that they play too. And I don't know the connection, but I don't think China is as much of a threat as they say it is. Elsewise, they wouldn't have 86,000 acres of our land right next to military bases. I know. I was stationed in North Dakota. I saw one of the silos that China has. One of our abandoned silos, excuse me. Okay. I saw that. I didn't even know what it was at the time, but I remember seeing it. That, and Trump wants 600,000 Chinese students who are legally obligated to spy on us, mind you, to come in and come to college, come to our college campuses. Right. I don't think they're as much of a threat as what they say they are. Right. And then our politicians are constantly talking about our greatest ally, who we don't even have an official treaty pact with, a peace treaty with. So they can't even be considered our ally at all. Right? But we're supposed to ignore all of the shit that goes on because the person who said is our guy. Right? It's the conditioning, the condition machine. They've got us all confused, between men and women, between left and right, between black and white. They got us all confused. And the more you come out about it, because that's exactly what that's exactly what Charlie was doing right before he was shot. And I remember seeing this phrase where it says if you want to know who's in charge, just ask who you can't be critical of, right? Who you can't critique. And you see it all the time, right? If you guys will remember the clip where Joe Rogan said, here, let me see. Let's see. Oops. Okay.
So,
Right.
against
No.
human, really a defensible.
No. I don't know why I keep forgetting this guy's name. He's the comedian, interviewer, podcaster dude. Do you guys remember his name? I can't. I can't remember this guy's name at all. But there was a clip with him on Joe Rogan's show, and he says, "How long do you think Israel will let us live?" And then Joe Rogan goes, "What? What are you talking about, man? What are you talking about?" Right? And then but that, I mean, that just goes to show you how captured our country is. And listen, a little bit of a disclaimer. I don't hate one person or another, and I hate that I have to disclose this, but I've already been called an anti-Semite. I've already been attacked for just asking questions. So I always make sure to say this. Anywhere that I'm talking about Israel or any country, right? I don't hate a people group just because they're a people group. I don't. I hate evil people. That's what I do hate. Right? And it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Christian, Muslim, Jew. It doesn't matter. Right? Man, woman, child. It doesn't matter because people can be evil no matter who they are. People can absolutely be evil. And unfortunately, too much of that evil is allowed to do whatever it wants in this country, in this government. And they're being protected by foreign entities. Because it all leads back to that foreign country. Right? See that, and that's the dangerous part about it. And that's why all these false flag operations are happening too. Because what I think is happening, right? And this is just me speculating, is the Zionists, they are trying to create false flags to gain support from the American people, which is exactly what they did with 9/11, actually. If you guys look into 9/11, you'll find some really, really weird things. Because I can talk about the dancing Israelis and how there were literally two Mossad agents that was recording the entire thing on top of a van that was reported by a woman, right, who had saw them that day. But all of them were Israeli nationals. They had passports, Israeli nationals. There were 5 men. If you guys don't know anything about the dancing Israelis, but you better look into it. But shortly after that, Netanyahu had said that 9/11 was good for Israel. Right? So it would really make sense that they would try to pull off all of these false flag operations to gain support, right? And I've been hearing, and this may be a little bit of a conspiracy thing, but I've been seeing that World War III will be about Christians and Muslims, right? Christians fighting Muslims, Muslims fighting Christians, which is orchestrated by Zionists. And mind you, Zionists are not Jewish, right? To say that Zionism, or to say that Zionists represent all Jewishness. No. Oh, hang on, brother. I saw your comment. D-Day was on June 6th. Yes, I'm very familiar with D-Day. I actually got to for some reason I'm gonna have to fix that. Uh, yeah, so I actually got to basic military training on D-Day. Here, maybe there we go. Actually got to basic on D-Day, so I'm very familiar with June 6th. Uh, let's see, 6 a.m. 5 years after the start of the war, strange day, and time to choose for an invasion, especially considering failed naval and aerial bombardment. That's true. That's true. The men circled in the water. That's true. Um, I think, if I remember correctly, they chose that time because of the fog, maybe. Gave them a little bit more cover. But at the same time, the posts with the landmines on top was kind of a no go for that. But um, yeah, yeah, a little bit of little bit of a weird time. But war is weird, man. War is absolutely weird. You're gonna find yourself in engagement, 12, 1 o'clock at night, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It just really depends, man. Um, but yeah, it's just it's uh, I want to find solutions, right? Because I see all the time. I see all the time of people complaining about all kinds of things, and they absolutely have a right to. I'm not saying they don't. People absolutely have a right to, because I mean they can't really afford to eat anything, right? But I want to look. I want to focus on solutions, and the only solution that I can ever really think of is taking office ourselves, right? And writing laws, writing policies that, I mean, these monopolies are supposed to be illegal. Let me see if I can. Let's see. Um, um, okay, here we go. Here we go. Let me move myself here. Dope. All right. Get my big ass head out of here. All right. So the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890, right, which bans monopolization, right? But guess what? We still have monopolies, right? Because you think about the oil industry, the gas industry, the railroad industry in the early 1900s. A lot of politicians were, doing some backdoor deals with, you know, corporate corporate entities, the Rockefellers, right? Um, so we need politicians to uphold this act, right? But my fear, and this is always my fear, is that, and this is also why I say we have to do this in mass numbers, because Brandon Herrera says this too, that they can't take all of us. They can't take all of us, right? They may be able to take one or two of us, but they can't take all of us. But we have to get into office, and we have to start upholding these laws, right? With an iron fist, right? Start bringing down heavy fines, criminal charges against companies who are creating these monopolies. I had Eric on, a good friend of mine, talking about the farming industry a few weeks ago, right? And we were talking about how there's like one or two uh what seeding companies now. Pretty much what I'm saying is that we don't have a free market today. Right? We absolutely don't have a free market. It's unfortunate. It really is. But we don't. We don't have a free market because everything eventually condenses into, one or two conglomerate, or big companies, right? Where do you go for groceries? It's either you go to Food Lion, Kroger, or Walmart, right? There's only a few that you go to. And they're doing everything that they can to cut out the butcher, right? To cut out the farmer, to to cut out the middleman, And then you also see what happened with COVID, right? People, I mean, small business owners were being locked up. They were absolutely being locked up. I want to show you this here. Let's see. Fine. Rules. They call them rules. Let's see. Yeah, New York bar owner. Was this? Let's see. When was this? Okay, back in 2020. Let's switch this here. All right. Okay, so New York bar owner fleeing arrest on COVID rules. See, pay attention to what they always say. Rules. It's not a law. It's not a policy. Rules. Absolute horseshit. So obviously we know the whole 6 feet apart. Wear your mask, wear your double mask, wear a nose ring. Obviously that last word was just thrown in there. Right. But I remember. Oh, hang on just a second. But this guy, owner of a bar, small business owner, was thrown into jail. He was jailed for breaking COVID rules. While you could stand right next to someone, right in the middle of Walmart, and snot all over each other. Well, guess what? Because Walmart makes millions of dollars. That also, I'm pretty sure, lobbies to politicians. And this guy doesn't. So that's why he was thrown in jail. Absolute horseshit. But we haven't had a free market for a long time. For a long time. Right? And we always like to say that we have a free country, a free nation. But you begin to find these things out. No, we don't. We don't. We already have an authoritarian system. Because you can't talk about certain things. Right? I know for a fact I'm going to get into some trouble because of how much I've been talking about Israel. Specifically in this live stream. Okay? So we need more people to really start waking up. And I mean really start waking up. Really start waking up. Right? Because that's what the red pill is. Okay? I hate using terms like that because they've become, I mean, it's overly used now at this point. The red pill. But I mean it is, the red pill is an awakening to everything around us, right? It's not just men and women, right? It's not just men's issues, women's issues. It's everything. Everything. once you begin to realize what's going on around you, there's no turning back. And you have to start figuring out a solution. Elsewise, you're going to get burnt out. Right? And you're going to give up. That's why people always revert to religion. You know, I saw a clip not too long ago where this woman was saying that she's just so fed up. She's so fed up with everything that's going on that, you know, she's going to hand it all over to God, right? Because she's Christian. She's going to hand it all over to God. And, you know, she said she's ready to leave this earth. There's nothing left for her here. Well, you're giving up the fight. You're giving up the fight. And that's dangerous. You know, if we have a number of people who give up the fight, we're not going to get anywhere. Right? So the red pill isn't just understanding the truth between men and women, right, as the majority of people who use the term. It's understanding about what's going on around us. And I think the whole Epstein thing, the trafficking, the arms dealing, all of that shit, all of the essentially dark web shit that goes on, or dark web-esque stuff. It's corruption. Corruption from foreign influence and corruption of our wealthy elite. And the only thing we could ever really do about it is expose them, run for office, replace them. But oftentimes, when we have politicians that actually want to make a difference, they either leave, like MTG did, or they get shot in front of their wife, like the great President Kennedy was. And that's going to cause conflict. That's why I say history always shows us, you know, you look at Rome, you look at Sparta, you look at, the Greeks in general, but you look at France, you know, all of these places all follow the same thing. And I think it speaks more to human nature, the human condition. Because, you know, us, just as any other animal, we create hierarchies, right? And through through that different status in those hierarchies, or excuse me, different levels, there's going to be conflict, right? Because there's going to be a certain view of, you know, these different people or these different levels. I think this explains eugenics perfectly. And that's another rabbit hole we can go down too, with eugenics, you know, pretty much hijacking the second wave feminism with the Plan B pill, right? And wanting to extinguish, you know, the Black American population, along with special needs individuals as well. But it's social class war. It's always been about social class war, and it doesn't matter what religious context, racial context, gender context. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Once we had created this idea of status for ourselves, right, and we started weaponizing that against others, I think we've kind of doomed ourselves to the same cycle of abuse of power. Right. The toxic side of humanity, of any animal in particular, but humanity in general. So But I mean, what do you guys think about this whole? Do you think that we will eventually find a way out of this? I mean, I'd really like to know what you guys have to say. I just don't think that I just don't think we'll find a way out of this situation. One, because the system is too far broken, and those who run the system is too corrupt. And anything that comes to change that, right, to actually make the system work for everyone, those people get targeted. And it eventually leads to violence. And I don't think there's really a way around that. I would love for there to be, a peaceful resolution. I just don't think there will be. Because if you think that these people are going to give up what they have, you're sorely mistaken. Obviously, because these people don't pay taxes, right? They don't. And if they do, they'll just leave. And then that's going to create a vacuum, right, in our economics and cause a bunch of problems there. But I think that might be more short term. I mean, but what do you guys think? You know? Oh man. Oh, I think I'm a little bit behind here. Oh no. I think it kind of just froze there for a second. Maybe. Um, but um, yeah, all of that long-winded rant to come around and say, "Look, we're not going to get the real information. This is what we are going to get, though. This is exactly what we're going to get. Redaction after redaction. After redaction. This is all that we're ever going to get is redaction. Look at that. Whole pages. Just redacted. That's all we're ever going to get, guys. So, but anyways, guys, I just wanted to take a little bit of a look into the Epstein files. Like I said, I don't look too heavily into this stuff. One, because I don't necessarily see it as a waste of time, because there's always going to be something that someone misses. But I already know that they're not going to release the actual information, obviously, because it implicates too many people, right? Too many people status, right? So I just don't think that we're ever going to get that. I know we're never going to get that. Obviously, they're showing us they're never gonna do that. And the people who want to force them to, well, they're taken out, unfortunately. So, but that's why I don't really look too much into this stuff. Now, I do keep myself aware. I do look at this and I do talk about it, of course. But as compared to Ian Carroll and those guys that really do deep research into this and build a platform off of that, which is awesome. I'd love for them to keep doing that. I just don't do that. I have too much going on. I have too many other projects and stuff that I talk about too, and there are a lot of other important things that we also need to talk about as well, as being a veteran, right? A man, a victim of an MLM, There are so many other things that really need to have attention on, and I really wish more more bigger YouTubers had got a hold of or would talk about the whole MLM stuff a lot more. Because there really needs to be some more information, or there really needs to be more attention on that. Just so you guys are aware, you may not know this, but just how affected people are when it comes to MLMs. 7.7% of the American population has admitted to being involved in an MLM. Over 14.6 million Americans, adult Americans, had some kind of involvement with MLMs, right? And I've seen people's lives destroyed because of MLMs. Marriages, right? Parents, children, their relationships pretty much exploding into nothing, right? I mean, there's just all kinds of things. That it just leads people to financial ruin. I mean, I've seen people lose thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, half $500,000, $750,000, right? And the fact that our very president was involved in that really needs to be talked about a lot more than what it is, which is near none. So if you guys will do me a favor, and share this stuff, and talk about it, tell your friends, tell your family about what we talked about today, about Trump being involved with MLMs, and MLMs known for scamming people and destroying their lives. That would be a massive help to not just me, but many other people that I've had here on the channel give their stories. And if you guys haven't seen those, please, I urge you to watch those videos, watch those live streams. Because I mean, these are financial cults that really destroy people. So, anyways, I can go on about this for forever. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the live stream up here. Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it, and I hope I was able to help in any way with this live stream. And please do let me know what you guys think about this whole thing, and what we've talked about. So, we'll be going live again tomorrow. The weekends are strictly gaming, so if you like watching gaming stuff, make sure you pop in there. Playing some Ark Survival Evolved, and then also playing some Halo 2. So, I'd love to have you guys along for the ride for that one. That's super awesome. You have to take a break every once in a while. So, but I thought this was extremely important to talk about, because there's just so much going on. There's just so much going on with the Epstein stuff that really needs to be talked about. So, anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Hopefully, I was able to help you out with whatever. So, and if you want me to cover anything, something that I haven't talked about on the channel, please do. I'll be more than happy to. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, Moist. Or Mud. Or is it Moist Mud? Is it Mud Moist or Moist Mud? Which one is it? Or is it just Moist or Mud? But I'm glad I was able to help you, man. Thanks so much. You have a great weekend. I hope you guys had a great Christmas. And you guys have a beautiful weekend, and make sure you guys stop by for the the gaming live streams tomorrow. I'd love to have you over. So, but I love you all. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys. Have a great night.